Welcome. Today we are going to talk about some important questions. These questions either are asked in previous exam, UGC-NET English literature, or are expected to be. The number of these questions here is 25. Through these 25 questions, we are going to cover different ages literature and several other parts. And these questions or in answer that we have given later on will tell us how much we are aware about literature and how and what we can do if we are going to catch this literature, English literature. And the first question in the sense is, just wait. And the first question in the sense is, here we are having important questions. And first question in the sense is, who belongs to the absurd school of drama? This absurd school of drama is most important part in 20th century, especially in the second half of 20th century. And there could be four options. And out of that, Samuel Beckett is most accurate answer. And this absurd of drama is a kind of drama in which new kind of non-existential kind of theory is given, and we have to cover that segment over here. And instead of checking all the details of absurd drama, we are just covering the main point of this. And now let's go to second question. The question is related to a poem by Alfred Tennyson, and Tear Idle Tears is a poem, and answer is Tennyson, and it appears in the collection The Princess. Tennyson is most important poet of Victorian era, and you have to check several things about him, especially some of his important poems, and when he became poet laureate, his death, and which collection he wrote on the death of a person, and so on. And these questions make it more important in case of Alfred Lord Tennyson. The third poem or the question in the list is having Thought Folks. It is a poem, and this is written by Ted Hughes. Ted Hughes is the most important or modernist poet after in the 20th century, and during the war period, his poems were most popular, especially post 1950s. And he make a name through such kind of poetry in which animal images are more important, and his imagery include fox, crows, eagle, and so on. So through this, he defined the mood of the era, especially after World War II. And hence, this question has a value in itself. The next question is from Victorian or Romantic era, somewhere around in between, because both these time were merging with one another. And the question is related to character, and the character Elizabeth appeared in Jane Austen's famous novel Pride and Prejudice. This character is itself more important, if you say, and Pride and Prejudice is mostly based on this character's will. And we can also check the opening of Pride and Prejudice, which begins with the "It is truth universally acknowledged," which is the most important line, and several times question asked on this very opening. And hence the question as well as the opening character and the novel, both are important. And the next question in the list is a quotation. This quotation is, "I am too much in the sun." Appears in Hamlet of William Shakespeare, and it is spoken by Hamlet itself to Claudius. And these quotation in recent years, at least last 5 years, are appearing frequently. They give just a random quotation, and you have to check from which text, which book, which work, or which character spoke to whom. And hence this line, it is a very important line, and we have to remember it, and at least for 2 marks. The next is again a very important poem, Fire and Ice. It is written by Robert Frost. We know about Robert Frost, American writer, and has written several nature poems. And it is one of them, Fire and Ice, and we can also identify it by the title itself. Fire and ice are representing two natural things, and hence it is more important. And you have to check this poem also. And next is a banned novel, the novel of Lawrence that is banned by the government, and that is Lady Chatterley's Lover. It is banned due to that too much sexuality in it, and although later on, after 1950, the ban of the novel is removed, and now it is one of the most successful novel of Lawrence. And if we look at Lawrence's work, mostly his novels were banned in the early time, but later on ban is removed. And now in today's time, Lawrence is considered a mastermind, and his novels, either it is Sons and Lover, that Rainbow, and Lady Chatterley's Lover, are one of the masterpiece of 20th century. And the next is again a line, and it is again from William Shakespeare's play, and the line is "Undo this button." This line is a kind of inspiration, or not an inspiration, but just a advice kind of thing that is spoken by Hamlet. And this line you have to remember again, just for your information, because the UGC-NET is asking frequently some quotation from some random text. And next line in the list is again from again a reference of Hamlet, but is an indirect, and "I am no Prince Hamlet" is a line written by. And now that is most confusing, because most of student could go with William Shakespeare's, because he is writing, he wrote about Hamlet, but answer is not that, and the line appears in T.S. Eliot's Song of Alfred. And this line is also confusing, and one has to remember it in case one is willing to go with the higher score for UGC-NET, and confusing line are mostly asked, and this is also the one of them, and hence its importance is double. Number 10, question number 10 is "Things Fall Apart" is a line from Yeats, and it is from Second Coming. If you go with Yeats, there is directly no question asked from him, like when he get a Nobel Prize and how he helped Rabindranath Tagore to publish his work. No, several of his poems are coming, like The Second Coming, Sailing to Byzantium, and others. Only the lines are given from them. Sometimes the opening line, sometimes ending line, and sometimes some important line from in between. And this line is something line like that, and "Things Fall Apart" is also a novel by Chenachib, and hence this line. So sometime from Chenachib's "Things Fall Apart" question could come, but the title, due to this title, that that Yeats line "Things Fall Apart" is here, and hence the value of this line is more, especially as it also the title of one of most famous novel, the Things Fall Apart, and hence do remember the line. The next line is again from Robert Frost, and "Good fences make good neighbors" is from Robert Frost, The Mending Wall. This quotation is most important quotation from Robert Frost, and several times in several exams, at least 2 or 3 times in last 20 years, this quotation appears, and hence that make it more valuable as compared to other, at least in case of Robert Frost, hence do remember that. The Gothic term originally referred to architecture is the answer. So architecture is the thing from where this Gothic term appears, and then it comes in English literature or in literature, especially in novels and in poems also. You can check Walter Delamere's so famous poem, The Listener. It is also Gothic in nature. So Gothic term is everywhere, either it is novels, short stories, drama, and everywhere. But originally the term is introduced in architecture first, and from there it spread its branch in different fields. Now we are moving towards Anglo-Saxon era, and as we know, Beowulf is considered the first epic in English literature, and several time question is asked from Beowulf: what is the name of sword, dragon, can fly and spit, and how dragon was killed, and so on. Name of the monster in Beowulf, that was Drendel, and similarly the setting. And today we are having setting of Beowulf, and the first part of Beowulf open in, and the answer is Denmark. Denmark, a country, and several things like heroic and how Beowulf fight and so on. So the question is itself important case of setting, and hence we have to consider it for our important list. The vampire novel had its genesis in the discussion among, and the vampire novel, and we are having name Salley, Mary Salley, Byron, and Polidori. And this novel is more like Frankenstein, you can say. And through the discussion, we are having this Frankenstein novel, and later it becomes most important, and perhaps it is never out of print, and the value of this is more, and it is a background question related to Frankenstein, you could say, and the value of the work is more, and hence the question is selected here. Now, Anna Karenina, Russian literature we are having, and when Anna Karenina met Vronsky, she had blank number of children, and answer is 1. And that is important question, as Anna Karenina novel are several times. Leo Tolstoy's 2 novels are popular, Anna Karenina and War and Peace. These novel we have to remember maximum fact when published, which year, which, who were the main characters, to whom they are married, and so on, their children, and if possible some other important events which are here, and hence the question is here. Now we are moving to next question 16. Jeremy Collier's pamphlet was a direct attack on. This question is important and asked several times in different way in UGC-NET, and here we are having several important things, and you can say Jeremy Collier's pamphlet was in direct attack on restoration theater. It can become first question's answer, and its title itself, short view of the immortality and profaneness of the English stage, and this could be the second thing here, and it was written against William Beckerley, John Dryden, William Congreve, Vanlo, and Thomas Alfred. So these people are those against which Jeremy Collier wrote its pamphlet, and you have to check most of the details, as such kind of questions which are of less importance are asked in UGC-NET, and we mostly ignore such kind of questions if we are there, and hence the value of this question is more. Do remember it, and you can highlight the question in itself. Another is related to poem, and the poem is Darkling Thirst. And looking forward to the answer 20th century, and the poem is by Thomas Hardy, and the original title By the Century's Deathbed, 1900, and that is the original title, and the title that is Darkling Thirst is another one, and hence you can check this poem that is more important because that when 1900 is itself have a value. If you check this 1900, what does it mean? Because from here begins the 20th century, and this 1900 is relation with the opening of the century, and that word is a reference you could find after reading this poem. And the next question is 18 number. When the lilacs last in the dooryard bloom, mourns the death of Abraham Lincoln. And that is second line in the poem The Wasteland, T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. And as we discussed earlier also, the wasteland is itself important. The opening line, April is the cruelest month, and the second line is this, when lilacs last in the dooryard bloom, and it ends with Santi, Santi, Santi. Sometime question is asked how many parts the wasteland has, and five, and chronology is also asked, and several myths are used in the poem, like Madame Sosostris and Saint Augustine and others. So these myths are also important, and if you could do remember the names and their association with different culture and era, without them it is incomplete, because at least 3 or 4 times these Greek characters or these myths or legends are asked by UGC-NET, and hence the value of these is more. So while reading the Wasteland, do not stick only to which remember, like you can also check when the Wasteland was published, and in which journal or magazine it was published, and in how many parts. Sometimes structural question could come, and hence the Wasteland is also important, and you could check in different ways. And as we are aware, the Wasteland is more about symbols, and these symbols are used in direct way, and when lilacs last in the dooryard bloom is a kind of that one. And the next is the term subaltern was introduced by Antonio Gramsci, and which it is perhaps the most easiest question we are covering in the list of 25, and subaltern is introduced by Antonio Gramsci. Do remember. And next 20th question is, Sherlock Holmes is partially modeled on Conan Doyle's teacher, and answer is Joseph Bell. Introductory question, and you have to remember mostly UGC never asks such type of question, but sometime it could. So the question is included. And the next is the character Marlowe narrate Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness and Lord Jim. So that is the narrator of the novel, and in whole, this character Marlowe is the most important character of Conrad, and it appears in 4 novels of Joseph Conrad. And you can comment which are other 2 novels apart from Heart of Darkness and Lord Jim. So these Heart of Darkness and Lord Jim are more important poem related to colonization and other things, and you could see these details about Heart of Darkness and Lord Jim. These are most favorite novels of UGC-NET, and if you are not checking these novel characters, content, story, ending, then it would be hard for you to get, because the ending and how characters are killed, these are also most important. Lord Jim, how Lord Jim was killed or dead in the end, and so on. So these important, how either he was killed by a knife or a gun shot, or by hanging or drawing, or it was a suicide. So you have to check such kind of detail, because one time the question was asked how Lord Jim died, and in that sense you have to cover it. And the question 22 is, the tramp character of Samuel Beckett were influenced by, and that is by J.M. Senge. And in case of Samuel Beckett, we are having Waiting for Godot, and how many act this play has, how many character it has, and will the Godot come, and so on. In case of J.M. Senge, you are having two important work of him, that is one act play Riders of the Sea and Playboy of the Western World. Both are important, and you have to check in which year they published, what is their background, and what story they are explaining, and what are the name of the lady that is in Riders of the Sea, and how many children she has, how many male members she has, and how many people are died, and how she look upon the sea. So these are the important points that you have to remember. What was, and in case of Playboy of the Western World, whom that Playboy loved, what was his relation with father, and how he killed his father, and how his father survived, and how he proved that he want to kill his father. So these are the things that you have to cover from J.M. Senge's famous work. And the next question in the list is Ivanhoe is a novel. Ivanhoe by Samuel Butler is that is the name of a country. So this is noted character or said anything else, but name of a country. And in that sense, it is a background, and you can also check the year of publication of book and important characters code. These are the things which make these works more important as compared to other. And the second last question in the list is Clarissa is the protagonist in the novel, Mrs. Dollarby, and that is another important novel. And you could check who wrote it, in which year this come, how many character it has, and how many couple characters are here, and how many family characters are here. And if you go by that, and that way, it would be very interesting and important to cover up all these things. And now we are moving toward the last question of ours, and it is, who described the artist in the following lines? 3 marks, what ills the scholar life assail toil, and envy, want, patron, and J. So these are things, and this line appears in Samuel Johnson's famous poem Vanity of Human Wishes. You can also check the content theme of the poem, as well as the year of publication, and some work of Samuel Johnson can also be checked. And these are the point that we are having here in case of our question and works. And important question, if you find this interesting, you could like our video, you can comment, subscribe, and with this, I'll thanks, take care, good day.